as we are now coming into the final 30 minutes of the countdown here for the Starlink 6-41 mission. Unfortunately, the fog conditions not improving much at all. But do want to thank some folks for their support. Taking a look back at the live chat here. A lot of folks being very generous on this live stream. I want to thank channel members Marcus Gallegos for gifting 5 Spaceflight Now memberships, Nelson Reyes for gifting 5 Spaceflight Now memberships, Callistia Lee for gifting 10 Spaceflight Now memberships, and Mark Otto for also gifting 10 Spaceflight Now memberships, for a total of 30 new members to the Spaceflight Now family. So to all of those who have now joined the fold, a very sincere welcome to all of you. Glad to have you all aboard. And if you are one of those lucky recipients of channel membership now, be sure to thank Marcus, Nelson, Callistia, and Mark in the live chat here. Taking a look back over at the vehicle assembly building, it is basically completely obstructed by the fog now. I mentioned things were getting a little bit thicker here. And yeah, our prospects of seeing the Falcon 9 from the press site not feeling the greatest. However, we do have help this afternoon / early evening from our friend Pete Carstens with Max Q Productions, and things from his vantage point are looking much clearer. So given the trajectory of the Falcon 9 rocket heading in a southeasterly flight path, we should still be able to give you good tracking views of the Starlink 6-41 mission. Set to launch, T-minus 28 minutes, 4 seconds and counting. As we continue on down that path to flight, really want to thank the nearly 5,900 of you who are watching live. If you haven't already, be sure to click the like button and allow more folks to find this live coverage. Let the YouTube algorithm do its thing. Seconds and counting. Again, while the fog is proving challenging here at the press site, if all goes according to plan, we should have good, clear views of the rocket after it launches from our friend Pete Carstens, who is providing tracking assistance today. So fear not, no need to steer away from our live coverage in progress. We will be able to track the Falcon 9 as we continue to keep eyes on another Falcon 9 second stage continuing to coast on the Transporter-10 mission. For now, let's focus more specifically here on the booster supporting this mission. While you can't see it, it's out there somewhere. So let's talk about the booster history for tail number 1073, preparing to launch for a 13th time tonight. This booster first launched back on May 14th, 2022 on its very first Starlink flight with Starlink Mission Group 4-15, sending up 53 version 1.5 Starlink satellites into low Earth orbit. Next up was a C-band communication satellite for SES on June 29th. That was followed up by a pair of Starlink missions on August 10th, Starlink 4-26, and on September 24th, Starlink 4-35. Those were followed by this booster's first lunar supporting mission with the launch of the Hakuto-R lunar lander on December 11th. The launch went as planned, but unfortunately, the lander crash landed on the moon. And we would go on to see how challenging the moon would be for even those missions that are deemed successful by history standards. Of course, talking about the recently launched and recently landed, I should say, Slim lander from JAXA and Intuitive Machines Nova Sea lander Odysseus. Both landed on the moon, both fell over. Of course, you saw with the photos from Intuitive Machines of Odie that as it was coming in for a landing, it skidded, snapped a leg, and fell where it is lying at about a 30-degree angle. Currently in lunar night, they're hoping that when the sun shines on Odie's solar panels again in a couple of weeks, that they may have a hope to wake Odie up and perform some more science observations on the moon's surface. That being said, Odie was not designed to survive a lunar night, so the odds are long, but not impossible. Moving on with this booster's history, its next flight was on February 7th, 2023, when it launched the Amazonas Nexus satellite, Spanish communications satellite for Hispasat. Covers the Americas, Europe, and North Africa. It was followed by a mission to the International Space Station with the Commercial Resupply Services, or CRS-27 launch on March 15th. From here on out, this booster was flying Starlink missions. Those were Starlink Group 6-2 on April 19th, Group 5-8th, and most recently Starlink Group 6-37 on January 15th of this year. And that brings us to the planned launch of Starlink 6-41, coming up T-minus 21 minutes, 16 seconds and counting. We're just about a minute away from the point at which SpaceX will be chilling the feed lines on the transporter erector, which would normally create a very striking visual of the big vent. However, given the amount of fog, I would be shocked if we could actually see that at this point. Things continue to go well. We're getting a great view with the Earth at the top right-hand corner of the live view here on the Falcon 9 second stage, supporting the Transporter-10 mission. Currently in a coast phase. You see the timeline on that. Another great view of our little blue marble down below. 2 + 1 hour, 30 minutes, 18 seconds and counting in the Transporter-10 mission. Coming up next in about 14 minutes will be a 1 second burn of the Merlin vacuum engine on the Transporter-10 flight. The second stage has just about made one full revolution around the Earth. Coming up on an approach over California coastline. Just a little bit here. Following that 1 second burn, then it will go back to coasting until T plus 2 hours, 25 minutes, and 51 seconds, when there will be another burn, a fourth burn of the Merlin vacuum engine on this mission of less than a second. Then payloads will start deploying yet again, starting at T plus 2 hours, 25 minutes, and 2 hours, 28 minutes, and 39 seconds, with the BRO-12 and BRO-13 satellites deploying. Coming back to the Starlink 6-41 mission, we're T-minus 18 minutes, 30 seconds and counting. Trying to brighten things up a bit for you here and see what we can see, which, spoiler alert, is not much. But the big vent is underway on the nominal timeline, and we're just a little over 2 minutes away from the start of LOX load on the Falcon 9 second stage. Taking a look back here at the live chat on this bit of our live coverage today. Want to welcome Scott B., our newest channel member, to the pad leader level. Really appreciate that, Scott. Thanks for being with us and for your support. And thanks also to the more than 8,500 of you that are watching live with us this afternoon. If you haven't already, be sure to click the like button. And also, now's a great time to subscribe to Spaceflight Now if you haven't already. Be sure to click the bell icon and turn on all notifications so that you get updated when we start these live streams and post new videos to the channel as well. Because SpaceX has started fueling the Falcon 9 rocket as well into that process, they are committing themselves to make a go at this at 6:56 p.m. Eastern, 23:56 UTC. If for whatever reason a launch tonight is not feasible, they do have additional backup opportunities starting Tuesday, March 5th at 6:26 p.m. Eastern. And while certainly this is far from what you would call a Chamber of Commerce kind of a day, that does not mean that we're in a situation where launch weather conditions are poor. Quite the contrary, actually. 45th Weather Squadron forecast about 80% odds of favorable weather at liftoff, with the watch items being the cumulus cloud roll and the anvil cloud rolls. So the fog we're seeing should not be a hindrance to launch in the same way that genuinely thick clouds would be. Now T-minus 15 minutes, 56 seconds and counting. LOX load has now begun on the Falcon 9 second stage. As we see another Falcon 9 second stage with a beautiful flyover heading towards the continental United States. For all of our friends who are in Southern California, go ahead, step outside, tilt your head to the sky, give a wave to Falcon 9 second stage flying over you. Speaking of passing on gratitude, want to thank Marcus Gallegos for chipping in with quite a bit more generosity here, gifting 20 Spaceflight Now memberships. Really appreciate that, Marcus. Thank you so much, sir, for bringing more folks into channel membership. And to all our newest channel members, welcome aboard. Hope you have the opportunity to pop this up on a big screen, as you can now see our launches in 4K. this is a good view of the fog and the clouds that are overhead. You can see the fog rolling in along the coastline and just completely blanketing the Cape here. But you can see things are a little bit clearer farther south of us. And so we will rely on Pete Carstens to give it the old college try and provide our best vantage point. You can actually see this is Pete's camera view here, taking a look at a plane, looks like gliding in towards Melbourne Orlando International Airport down farther south on Florida's Space Coast. That looks like a training plane from Florida Tech, part of their flight school. Looks like it by the colors there. So an indication of the clarity that Pete has versus what we have here at the press site. So we should be good to go when it comes to the launch of the Falcon 9 rocket. We're at T-minus 12 minutes, 53 seconds and counting. Coming up, the next fueling milestone for the Falcon 9 rocket for the Starlink 6-41 mission will be the chill down sequence for the 9 Merlin 1D engines. Involves flowing a small amount of liquid oxygen through the plumbing and the turbo pumps, protecting them from the risk of thermal shock and damage during the startup sequence. Again, that's coming up about 5.5 minutes. It has been an incredibly busy few days for SpaceX. Not only did they launch the Crew 8 astronauts on their way to the International Space Station. They'll be arriving around 3 a.m. tomorrow morning. They've launched the Transporter-10 mission, which is currently in the process of making its payload deployments. It's preparing to launch the Starlink 6-41 mission, and also down at Starbase in southern Texas, they are reviewing data from a wet dress rehearsal where they loaded more than 10 million pounds of propellant on board the Starship and Super Heavy booster in preparation for the third flight test of the Starship vehicle. So lots going on with SpaceX also. There's lots going on in general here on Florida's Space Coast, bringing things back here, as United Launch Alliance is in the process of preparing its Atlas V rocket to support a crewed flight test of Boeing's Starliner spacecraft, the second entrant into NASA's Commercial Crew program, finally after years of delays preparing to send humans to the International Space Station as early as late April at this point. Also, Blue Origin doing some more fueling tests on its Pathfinder version of the New Glenn rocket over at Launch Complex 36. So all here in Florida and also around the country, I might add, as Firefly Aerospace, we were just down in Texas last week to see their manufacturing facilities. They're in the process of integrating their next Alpha rocket, getting ready to launch over at Vandenberg Space Force Base, a satellite mission for NASA. And also Rocket Lab preparing to launch a pair of synthetic aperture satellites down in New Zealand. That's coming up this week. And I'll add one more for you. They're in the process of getting ready to launch a mission from the National Reconnaissance Office. That'll be the first NRO mission launching from NASA's Wallops facility in Virginia. It's really an incredibly busy time in the realm of spaceflight and just in the space industry in general. And so we sincerely appreciate all of your support in helping us cover that as thoroughly as we possibly can. Working to increase that coverage and thoroughness month over month. T-minus 9 minutes, 7 seconds and counting. Taking a peek back at the live chat, want to thank Marcus Gallegos for another $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Marcus, who says, have to support my favorite channel for the amazing coverage. Thank you, Marcus. And to everyone that got a membership from me, this is Marcus speaking, and on behalf of everyone else that got sent a gift, you are very welcome. Enjoy. And yes, to all of those who are now new channel members, I hope you enjoy the perks of channel membership as we continue to bring you more member videos for you to enjoy, as well as, of course, watching our Cape launches in 4K, having discounts at our online shop. We're always looking for ways to both improve our coverage and improve the experience of being a channel member, and we're looking at additional options to broaden that coverage in the future. One way, of course, of doing that for all of those who come to Spaceflight Now is our weekly live news roundup. If you haven't been with us for our News from the Press Site show, that is a live recap and roundtable discussion of the week that was in space news. I host the show, and we're joined every week by a couple of journalists who are on the Space Beat to talk about their reporting and get their analysis and insight on some of the week's biggest space news. We'll announce who's going to be joining the panel discussion this week, but we have been joined in a couple of recent episodes. This past Friday, we had Rachel Zisk from Payload Space, Michael Sheets from CNBC. In recent weeks, we've also been joined by Gina Sinceri from ABC News, Chris Davenport from the Washington Post, Tim Fernholz from Payload Space, and Micah Maidenberg from the Wall Street Journal. So you never know who's going to show up on News from the Press Site. We've got a lot of friends across the industry, and we look forward to having some great conversations with them week after week. So we hope you join us this Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern for News from the Press Site, live right here, only on the Spaceflight Now YouTube channel. We're now T-minus 6 minutes, 43 seconds and counting, about 15 seconds into the process of the engine chill down sequence. What you're seeing here on your screen is the little bit of light illuminating just the very base of the vehicle assembly building. There at the center of your screen, the building just to the right of that, where you see the row of windows, that is the Launch Control Center, which houses the firing rooms where they control the countdown and the flight operations for the Artemis missions moving forward. Historically, launches of Shuttle and Apollo before. A lot of history in both of those buildings, of course. Want to welcome a couple new channel members, Michael Lee and Mousternaut 247, joining both at the pad leader level. Welcome to you both. Glad to have you with us. And thanks to previously existing channel member Nelson Reyes. Thanks so much, Nelson, for the $10 super chat, who says, thank you, Spaceflight Now, moderators, and support crew for the great coverage and chat. And yes, thanks to the moderators for allowing a good flow and exchange of ideas and conversation as we get ready for the launch of the Starlink 6-41 mission, as well as keeping our eyes on the coast phase of the Falcon 9 upper stage from the Transporter-10 mission. And certainly want to thank the more than 19,000 of you who are watching live with us right now. If you haven't already, be sure to hit the like button. Allow more folks to find this live coverage as we come into the final 5 minutes of the count. We should be getting some additional views from SpaceX. Hopefully their cameras at the pad, well, I was going to say hopefully they're not quite as socked in from the fog, but as you can see, even right up on the rocket, it's pretty darn dense. Just as a bit of housekeeping here, now that we do have views from SpaceX, we're piping in some of the audio. We'll be pausing so you can hear those callouts.
Strongback retract has started.
As you heard, the Strongback retract sequence is beginning. The clamp arms underneath the payload fairings are opening up. And you can start to see the clamp arms opening up there. The Strongback, or the transporter erector, will lean back about 1.5 degrees away from the vehicle. Stays in that position until liftoff. Do want to note the discrepancy between our countdown clock and what you're seeing at the base of your screen from SpaceX. Our clock is in real time, and the SpaceX time is on a slight delay, so that's why you're seeing that difference. Now coming into the final 3 minutes of the count. As we come into the final few minutes of the count, want to quickly thank channel member Stuart Kirk for a $5 super chat, asking what is the best place to watch
Stage 1 lock flow complete.
a SpaceX launch up close in Florida. It's difficult to get tickets. And Don Pierce for a $2 super chat. Quickly to Stuart, it depends on which pad you're watching a launch from. If it's pad 40, I'd say probably go down to Jetty Park near Port Canaveral. If it's pad 39A or 39B, I'd say over at Kennedy Point Park, or there's a lot of great places along the Banana River that you can check out. Also along the Indian River.
Stage 2 lock flow complete.
Do you hear the call out that Stage 2 lock load has wrapped up? The Falcon 9 is now fully fueled with 1 million pounds of propellant. Now about 1.5 minutes to the planned liftoff. As we're coming up on the last minute, if you haven't already, be sure to hit the like button to allow more folks to find this coverage. Hear the call for ground gas closeouts. We're now just a little over a minute from launch. In a little less than 10 seconds, we should be hearing the SpaceX launch director
Falcon9 and startup.
make the call that we are go for launch. 40 seconds.
SpaceX launch director, go for launch.
And we are go for launch. 30 seconds away now. We will do our best to try to catch the engine ignition here. It's going to be a little tricky through the fog. We're going to do our best as we come into the final 15 seconds. And here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We believe engine ignition. And we should have liftoff. If struggling to see it, yeah, we do have liftoff of the Falcon 9 rocket. Seeing the glow here. Now 15 seconds into flight, working on getting a good visual here. As the Falcon 9, you can really just see the glow climbing through the fog. Hoping our friend Pete Carsons can get eyes on the vehicle momentarily. And our tracking view got it. Adam Bernstein with the rocket. Got a good shot from Pete as well. As the glow of the 9 Merlin 1T engines helping us find the vehicle through a very dense, foggy night here on Florida Space Coast. These views coming from Pete Karstens here at Max Q Productions. Coming up onto a minute of flight. Vehicle is now throttling down as it approaches max Q, point of greatest aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle. Now the vehicle is climbing high. We're getting some good tracking views. As we hear the call out for max Q, now we've got a great shot of it here. Really good from Pete, and great job by Adam too. A nice clear shot of the Falcon 9. You can see a little bit of a shock collar around the payload fairings. Coming up on the second minute of flight. Right now we have 2 Falcon 9 rockets simultaneously flying 2 parts of the world. A Falcon 9 powered by its first stage right now. Meanwhile, a second stage of a Falcon 9 coasting as well. A little over 2 minutes into flight. Coming up on a few events in rapid succession, we'll see main engine cutoff or MECO, followed by stage separation. And second stage engine start. Then fairing deployment. Looks like MECO, stage separation. You see the ignition of that MVAC engine.
MECO.
Great
Stage
shot
separation
from
confirmed.
Pete Karstens. And there you see the stage separation on the SpaceX onboard cameras and a slight delay. And you can see the burst of the cold gas thrusters on the Falcon 9 first stage on the left-hand side of your screen. Payload, or the hypersonic grid fins also deploying, as you see here. And there you see fairing deployment. Those payload fairings glinting against the setting sun's glow, as well as the glow of a Merlin vacuum engine.
Fairing separation confirmed.
And you see a great bit of sunset on the Starlink payload fairing. The payload fairings continue to fall away. A really nice view from the second stage engine, or second stage cameras, I should say. And you can still see the sunlight reflecting off of the Falcon 9 first stage. Still seeing a great view from our friend Pete Karstens of the Merlin vacuum engine continuing its burn. Climbing up and away from a setting sun. Now 4.5 minutes into flight. Coming up, the next milestone here on the Starlink 6-41 mission will be the first stage entry burn beginning. It's coming up a little more than 6 minutes into flight.
Both vehicles, nominal trajectory.
Right now, very unique phenomenon as 3 Falcon 9 stages are currently in flight around the world, flying independently. Right now on the left-hand side of your screen, you're taking a look at the Falcon 9 second stage from the Starlink 6-41 mission. That's what you're seeing as well on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Up top, That is a view from inside the Falcon 9 first stage, making its way down towards the drone ship, a short fall of gravitas. And of course, we're also tracking the the Transporter-10 Falcon 9 upper stage, which is currently in a coast phase. A very dynamic moment from SpaceX playing out simultaneously. We're now T+6 minutes into flight on this mission. Coming up on 2 hours into flight for the Transporter-10 mission. And Pete's
Stage 1 FTS has
got
saved.
the entry burn here.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
Great views of that entry burn currently in progress. And wrapping up here. Excellent job by both Pete and Adam this evening. Now coming up on the 7th minute of flight, as you can see the speedometer.
Stage 1 entry burn shut down.
Stage 2 FTS has saved.
Both stages nominal trajectory.
The speedometer for the Falcon 9 first stage continues to plummet as it was slamming on the brakes with that entry burn. It's now less than 30 kilometers in altitude, making its way down toward the drone ship. The second stage to fly today continues to speed up, now at an altitude of about 160 kilometers. Coming up on 7.5 minutes into flight, our next event will be in about 30 seconds, a little bit less, for the first stage landing burn beginning. Should touch down on the drone ship, a short fall of gravitas, about T+8.
Stage 1 transonic.
8 minutes and 15 seconds into flight. That call you just heard, the Falcon 9 first stage booster traveling below the speed of sound. You see the landing burn.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
The drone ship should be coming into view momentarily.
Landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And there you have it. For a 13th time, Falcon 9 first stage booster tail number 1073, 13 times up, 13 times down, completing a successful drone ship landing. And right now, a fascinating view of two
Back shutdown.
telemetry paths for two Falcon 9 second stages. This one here for Transporter-10, this one for the Starlink mission. Brief though it was that we had them both pulled up simultaneously, but just a good illustration of how incredibly dynamic of a day this has been for SpaceX.
Monitoring the Starlink mission.
As we are now over 2 hours into the flight of Transporter-10, the Merlin vacuum engine on the Starlink Falcon 9 second stage has now shut down. It'll be in a parking orbit until T plus 53 minutes 28 seconds, when it will ignite for a quick 1 second burn, setting up for a Starlink satellite deployment at T plus 1 hour 4 minutes and 37 seconds. In the meantime, talking about the Transporter-10 mission, which you see the telemetry for right now. This is also currently in a coast phase for the next roughly 26 minutes, 25 minutes, when there will be a less than 1 second burn at T plus 2 hours, 25 minutes and 51 seconds. And that'll set up the next and final round of deployments. There will be 11 deployment operations that will happen starting in about 27 minutes from now, ending with the Earth-observing satellite Methane Sat. It has been quite the day here, quite the 24 hours for our live launch coverage team here at Spaceflight Now. I want to thank a few more folks for their support as we continue to keep our eyes on the Transporter-10 mission. Want to thank Don Pierce for a $2 super chat. Thank you so much, Don. Our thanks as well to Harp's Dream Vision channel for a $5 super chat. Very happy core game emoji. Thank you so much, Harp. And also, welcome aboard to Debbie C., who is joining us the channel membership at the mission specialist level. Really appreciate you being with us. Welcome aboard. We're now T plus 2 hours, 3 minutes, 30 seconds and counting for the Transporter-10 mission. For those of you who'd like to stick with us to see the conclusion of this mission as the Starlink mission continues on its coast phase, we're going to keep the live channel here up. We're going to keep the live stream still up. Again, the next round of deployments, there's 11 more deployment sequences left. Next deployment will start at T plus 2 hours, 28 minutes, 39 seconds and counting. So certainly wouldn't blame you if you want to keep this live stream up in the background. Go ahead and grab a snack, maybe cook some food, and we'll be providing some commentary in the background, and you can join us for the visual of these satellite deployments coming up in about 24 minutes. We'll be here with you until the end of the Transporter-10 mission. In the meantime, want to thank Marcus Gallegos for another good bit of generosity here, gifting another 5 Spaceflight Now memberships. Really appreciate that, Marcus. And to those who now are new members, be sure to thank Marcus in the live chat. While we're waiting on the conclusion of the Transporter-10 mission, we'll keep that telemetry map up on the right-hand side of your screen. Let's go ahead and bring you the mission stats as they currently stand from the Starlink 6-41 mission, let you know where things currently have been placed at this point. This was the 13th flight of Falcon 9 booster 1073. The 307th Falcon 9 launch to date. This was SpaceX's 22nd Falcon 9 flight of 2022. The 251st Falcon booster reflight, or the launch of a booster that has flown at least once. This was SpaceX's 22nd orbital launch of 2022. The 103rd SpaceX orbital launch in the last 365 days. This is the first time they've reached 103 within 365. This was SpaceX's 171st launch from Pad 40. Its 226th overall orbital launch from, that should be Pad 40. Apologies for the typo there. Moving on to a bar chart here. Now moving along quite well for SpaceX flights on the year. Moving on to recovery stats, this was the 60th landing of a Falcon 9 first stage booster on the drone ship, a short fall of gravitas. This was SpaceX's 217th drone ship landing to date, and the 281st overall SpaceX booster landing. Moving out to the space industry, not too different from where we left you from the Transporter launch, but this was the 15th orbital launch from Florida, the 23rd now from U.S. soil, the 25th orbital launch from U.S. Rocket Company. Again, we've got Rocket Lab coming up later this week, so that'll change that number. And this is the 44th orbital launch from around the globe. With another U.S. launch, that just ticks things up just that much more. I want to thank a few more folks in the live chat for your support of our marathon live launch coverage over the last 24 hours. Butterfly, channel member, with a $2 super chat saying, "Will, you earned a nap." I will turn to my boss to my right and ask if I can actually have that nap, because that sounds delightful. And also to channel member Callistia Lee for a very generous $20 super chat. Thank you for that, Callistia. Who says, "Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button on your way out. Show your appreciation for Will, the mods, and all of Spaceflight Now for the always fantastic coverage." Well, thank you for the kind words, Callistia. And while we have about 20 minutes now between now and when the next deployment sequence really gets underway for the Transporter-10 mission, I'm going to go ahead and pause my voice before it is entirely gone, and we will be back in just a few minutes with some more commentary and updates. You've been watching the Starlink 6-41 mission simultaneously with Transporter-10. 2 for the price of 1. We'll be back shortly. Now T plus 2 hours, 11 minutes, 23 seconds and counting into the Transporter-10 mission. A little over 20 minutes into the Starlink 6-41 mission. I want to thank one of our channel members, Greg Williams, for a $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Greg, who very sweetly says, contributing to the Spaceflight Now Throat Lozenge Fund. Great job. And I will take that and add it to the Halls collection, and we need to start putting some ginger or lemon tea here in our office at the press site. It would be a much welcome addition. Thanks again, Greg. We're about 16 minutes away from the deployment sequence beginning. About 11 more rounds from Transporter-10 before we can go ahead and call it a day. T plus 2 hours, 14 minutes, 47 seconds and counting. Getting a glimpse inside the control room for just a second at Hawthorne, California. Now back to the telemetry view. Now T plus 2 hours, 18 minutes, 31 seconds and counting. Now about 10 minutes away from SpaceX picking up the deployment of the Transporter-10 remaining payloads. Previously noted, there are currently 2 Falcon 9 second stages circling the globe, both of them readying payload deployment. At the same time, a SpaceX Dragon spacecraft carrying 4 humans is chasing to catch up to the International Space Station to dock with another Dragon that is also on board, supporting the Crew 7 mission. So lots of SpaceX rockets and spacecraft circling the globe at the moment. I want to thank a few more folks for their support this evening as we continue on tracking the Transporter-10 mission. But thanks to Matt O for a $5 super chat saying, "Space flight is a dream. Thank you to everyone who making it possible to witness such incredible achievements. Thank you to Spaceflight Now." Thank you so much for the kind words, Matt, and for your support this evening. Thanks also to Nelson Reyes for a $10 super chat. Thank you, Nelson. One of our channel members who says, "A little something for the tip jar." We're going to get to those lozenges yet, ladies and gentlemen. And finally, for now, a very generous $50 super chat from Trevor Karjanis. Apologies, Trevor, if I mispronounced your last name, but thank you so much for supporting us on this level. Really appreciate that. Trevor says, just simply launch schedules and stuff. Yeah, that's pretty much what dominates our life right now. As you can see, it's a very foggy close out to the evening here, Florida's Space Coast. Still barely able to see the vehicle assembly building here. It looks like one of our moderators, Stephanie B, is signing off for tonight. So thanks for your help, Stephanie, and also to Astro Joe for both working hard in the live chat throughout the evening, as well as last night as well. Now T plus 2 hours, 24 minutes, 49 seconds and counting. Did here call out for a nominal orbit insertion for the second stage on the Transporter-10 mission. This was the fourth and final burn, setting up the payload deployment sequence for this last 11 batches of deployments.
Confirmed.
And there we just heard the
process of payload deployments.
13, separation confirmed.
Those are deployments of Bureau 12 and 13. Next up is Horatio, followed by RROC-2.
Horatio, separation confirmed. Rocky 2, separation confirmed.
Next up will be MUSAT 2, followed by Pony Express Space Vehicle 2.
MUSAT 2, separation confirmed. Pony Express 2, SV2, separation confirmed.
Coming up next will be Pony Express 2 SV1, followed by the first ICI satellite. That'll be followed by the third ICI satellite, and then the second. Why that order? Not entirely sure. That's the way the manifest has it.
Pony Express 2, SV1, separation confirmed. First ICI satellite, separation confirmed.
coming up on 2.5 hours here in the Transporter-10 mission. Just under 40 minutes on the Starlink flight.
Third ISI satellite, separation confirmed.
We have one more ISI satellite that's going to be deployed, manifested by EXO launch. And then finally, we got methane sat.
Second ISI satellite, separation confirmed. Methane sat, separation confirmed.
And with the deployment of methane sat,
All payload separations have been confirmed.
as you heard, Transporter-10 has reached the end of its deployment sequence. All the payloads have now been successfully deployed, closing out the Transporter-10 mission. 53 payloads on board, now on their way to beginning their flights. And as you see at the top right-hand corner of your screen, the Starlink satellite mission, Starlink 6-41, now 41 minutes, 31 seconds into its flight. SpaceX is going to be closing down these live stream views here, but I'll just let you know the next milestone coming up will be Merlin vacuum engine burn at T plus 53 minutes, 28 seconds. Quick 1 second burn. Setting up the Starlink satellites to deploy at T plus 1 hour, 4 minutes, and 37 seconds. And with that, having covered now 3 Falcon 9 launches, as we just tweeted out, in the span of 20 hours, 2 minutes, and 22 seconds, and not enough sleep in between all of it, we're going to go ahead and close out our third and final live stream tonight. So across all of these 3 missions, just want to thank all of the team that have been involved with this. A lot of hard work goes into making these live launch broadcasts happen. A lot of stuff you don't see behind the scenes so that it comes out smoothly on whatever screen you're watching from. So our thanks first to our wonderful moderators for helping keep things moving in the live chat. Our thanks to our friends Pete Karstens with Max Q Productions and Chuck Briggs for their assistance in tracking these rockets. Our thanks to our own launch photography team here of Adam Bernstein, Michael Kane. If you're not already following them on X, be sure to do so. They're at ABurnNYC and MD Kane Jr. Our thanks to our Spaceflight Now editor, Stephen Young, for running the technical operations of these shows and for managing things behind the scenes as well. Most importantly, thanks to you for being with us for whatever part or all of our live launch broadcasts across the Crew 8 Transporter-10 Starlink 6-41 missions. It is only March 4th. There's a lot of year left to go, and we hope you come back and join us for lots of coverage on the live front as well as some video reports as well. If you'd like to learn more about the 4 folks flying up to the International Space Station currently on the Crew 8 mission, we have launch mission profiles of all 4 members currently on our YouTube channel right now. So once you're done with this, if you'd like to go ahead and give those a watch, get educated on those folks, and see some of the fruits of our reporting labors heading out to Johnson Space Center to talk one-on-one with the crew members for those stories. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to Spaceflight Now on your way out the digital door. For all of us here at Spaceflight Now, I'm Will Robinson Smith. Be good to yourself, be good to others, and we will see you next time. Good night.